Welcome to this week's Chamber's Member Moment. I'm Ellen Horan, President and CEO of the Greater Reading Chamber of Commerce, and today with me is Keith Walbert, who is owner of White Bear Technology Services. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you, Ellen. Glad to be here.
Thanks so much for coming out. Now, Keith, you're in the technology industry.
Right.
I read that you went to Penn State, got an electrical engineering, and then pretty much grew up in the technology industry. How did you gain all of your expertise?
Sure. I went to Penn State Berks and graduated with an undergraduate degree in electrical engineering. And I started my career here in Reading at the former Gilbert Associates engineering and consulting company. Originally doing control systems work for a power plant. And I got into IT a couple ways. First of all, this was a few years ago, so I had not been exposed to computers till I got to college. And I had a Fortran programming course that really piqued my interest. And then when I was at Gilbert, through an honest mistake, I found my way into IT. I inadvertently, in trying to shorten a task that I was doing using their mainframe computer, I inadvertently bypassed some of their tracking and was called to the IT manager's office to explain how I managed to figure this out and do this. A gentleman by the name of Barry Pierce became my mentor. And I transferred from the engineering organization into IT and started working there doing networking, hardware, that sort of thing, sort of the electronics bent in the beginning. Then over time I took on additional responsibility, got more involved in the software end of things, took on some management responsibility. And I left there as a manager of technical services where I had responsibility for all the servers, networking, desktops, database, most of what was going on except for the programming team. I left when Parsons Power acquired them in '96 and went to what was then U.S. Healthcare. And another anecdote, I had the dubious distinction of accepting my offer at U.S. Healthcare April Fool's Day 1996
There you go.
when they announced the merger with Aetna. So,
yeah.
So I started with U.S. Healthcare, ended up at Aetna, and stayed there for 15 and a half years. When I left there, I was director of enterprise technology architecture. So I had responsibility for their technology strategy for all of Aetna, their product portfolio management for their technology products. After being there 15 years, it was time for a change. I wanted to do something different. And after I had made up my mind to leave, they announced an early separation program. So I got an early out. Was very, very fortunate to have that coincidence happen. So I left and contemplated what I wanted to do and decided to start my own company, my own consulting practice.
Pretty brave of you, because I saw you started the business just in 2012.
Right.
Not that long ago.
Right.
So how scary is that to start your own business?
It was scary.
Yeah, at that stage of your career.
It was new to me, and after working in industry within the IT world for 25 plus years, and used to projects and work coming to me, now I had to wear all the hats. Do the business development, go out there and meet people. I had not done a lot of networking prior to that, so that was all new. So it was a great learning experience. It was a little shaky, getting started. And I did some research. I found that it can take a year or two till you get up and running and get some work going. So I hung in there, and I couldn't have done it without the love and support of my very patient wife, Kim, to get through all that with me.
Very good. Talk to us about some of the services that you provide as White Bear Technologies.
Sure. I primarily focus on mid-market enterprise clients, and I provide strategy type services. I help them align their business and technology strategy, find technology solutions to business problems, and help them achieve their business goals, minimize their risk, do those sorts of things with technology solutions. So it's primarily a strategy focus. It's not your typical break fix networking. There's a number of companies in the Reading area that do that. And I chose to differentiate myself and do something more at the larger business level, and more of a strategy role. So I can do that for pretty much any size business that has an established IT organization. I also provide what's called the VCIO or virtual CIO capability, which is for companies that are not large enough to support a full-time CIO on their payroll. They might have an IT guy who keeps the lights on and keeps things running, but I can come in on a fractional basis and provide strategy and planning at an executive level.
Perfect. Now, like I think about 30% of our members, you're a sole proprietor.
Right.
And as you alluded to earlier, it is so difficult to wear all of the hats. Your expertise is in technology. How have you found the balance of approaching marketing and sales? It's a trick question.
It still remains a challenge, and the Chamber's been a great help. I've met a lot of great people that have helped me along the way and put me in contact with other folks. But getting my name out there, as I continue to go to Chamber events, people recognize the company name now, which I feel is progress.
Okay.
And I just recently completed a 5-month engagement here in Reading with Penske Truck Leasing. So
Okay.
I've gotten my first
Good
major
reference
contract.
under your belt.
Yeah, and a
Excellent.
good reference. So.
Good. Wanted to ask you, great white bear. Where's
Sure.
the name come from?
I knew you'd ask that.
I knew. You have to.
Well, when I decided to start the business, I toyed with, what was I going to call it? There's the typical, do I use my initials, my last name, Walbert Consulting, what have you. We live off of White Bear Road in Robinson Township. And my wife and I used to very often go to what used to be the White Bear Inn, which was a fine dining restaurant nearby. And I always thought it was curious that it was called White Bear, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. And I liked it. I thought, well, maybe I can use that, but I really need to understand where it came from, because people are going to ask, well, how'd you come up with White Bear? So assuming that there were no polar bears roaming Robinson Township, I did some research on the internet and also through the Berks History Center. Got some great resources there and found out that White Bear is actually the name of a hamlet that used to exist down at the end of White Bear Road where it hits Hay Creek Road. And this goes back to the 18th and 19th century. There was a lot of industry and entrepreneurship in that area. It was also known as Scarlett's Mill. And John Scarlett built Scarlett's Mill and a number of other industrial factories, gun factories, blacksmith shop. There's a lot of activity down there in that little area, little sleepy area now. There's still remnants of what used to be. The train trestle is still there. The White Bear Station was a stop on the Wilmington and Northern Railroad in 1873, I think. But all that was very interesting, and the history was fascinating, but I still was working on the White Bear part. Well, there was a White Bear Inn, which is not the same White Bear Inn that many of us know. It was actually a little bit further south on Hay Creek Road. It was built in 1730 and became the White Bear Inn in 1810. And it was called that because they put a sign out front with a white bear on it. It still didn't answer the question, where does the white bear come from? So I have not gotten a definitive answer to that, unfortunately. I did find one reference that I've adopted as part of the story, and that is that the white bear could be an albino black bear cub. And in Native American folklore, sign of an albino cub is a sign of good things to come.
Oh, there you go.
So
And
with that
uniqueness.
sentiment,
How about that?
and with the entrepreneurship and the history of the area, I thought, now I can explain this. I can use this name. I think it's pretty cool.
Good, thank you. Do you have any tips, lessons learned about being a sole proprietor for other chamber members that are in the same boat? Any tips for how to handle that burden?
Sure.
All by yourself.
Sure. Network, I guess, is the first step. And find yourself a good accountant and a good attorney, because there are those things that have to be dealt with, taxes and those other unpleasant things about being in business.
That's good advice.
So that was very helpful to me to understand. I kind of on my own did some research, understood what I needed to do to set up the LLC and those kinds of things, but really needed some professional advice on how to do those things. But getting involved in the chamber and some other networking venues were really the key to making a lot of contacts and making progress.
Great. Keith, thank you very much for coming and sharing your story with the rest of the chamber membership today, and thank you for your chamber membership.
Thank you, Alice. Pleasure to be here.